Revealed, my billionaire parents thought I came for a handout, then my incredible daughter Surpr. Ava stood at the grand gates of her childhood home, heart racing as she relearned the truth of her past sweetened by the shimmering California sun. The laughter echoing from inside was a deceptive veil that shrouded her feelings like poignant memories coated in a thick layer of polished gold. The pain of estrangement echoed in her mind. She could feel her billionaire parents' judgment lurking around every corner. Their wealth had made them gods in the eyes of this gilded community, yet it came with an unshakable curse expectations that Ava could no longer swallow. As she stepped through the gates, she could feel eyes on her, not with curiosity but scrutiny. Were they wondering why this once promising daughter returned as the single mother who could barely sustain herself and her talented artist daughter, Lily? More than anything, she wanted to sever the threads connecting her self-worth to their wealth. But in that moment, standing on the edge of what had once been her world, Ava felt the sting of failure wrap around her throat like a vine. It was an unfamiliar oppression, yet one she wore like a second skin. Each shift at the diner wore her thin. Calloused hands served burgers and fries while her heart remained buoyed by the weight of her daughter's creative potential. Lily, with her vibrant paintings and boundless imagination, seemed like a glimmering lighthouse in the fog of despair. But would her parents ever understand that success might not be enshrined in dollar signs but in the brushstrokes of her young, untainted dreams? Would they push her towards the very ideals that had almost crushed Ava? The thought churned inside Ava, twisting and pulling at her gut. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The art show invitation had surprised her, and she hesitated, picturing her parents in their tailored suits, sipping those maddeningly expensive cocktails. She envisioned their skepticism and dismissal, suddenly letting her own icy breath freeze everything firmly in place. But a voice inside her urged her forward, her thoughts darting wildly. This was about Lily and her expression, not about succumbing to their simpering demands. The moment she hit submit on that application brought her feelings crashing, uncertainty washing over her like a cold tide. Then came the night of the show, with swathes of affluent attendees falling for Lily's work. Ava's heart swelled as pride battered against the shields of fear. But when her parents strutted in smirking and bewildered, every joyful thought sank. They didn't see Lily's burgeoning talent, they only saw a reflection of their own dreams. The storm within Ava grew more tumultuous, raging against the facade of their lives. Walking home that night, she discovered a hidden trove of paintings created by their ancestors, their forgotten struggles etched in swirling strokes of color. The juxtaposition between this rich familial heritage and the soul-crushing present filled Ava with both fury and defiance. Had her lineage also fought against the very weight of success they constantly wielded? As thunder crackled in the sky, the growing power of her conviction pressed against her rib cage. How could she confront them? Would they ever understand that her worth lay beyond their dollar-obsessed ambitions? She felt the crescendo of emotion building, ready to spill over. Her breath quickened, and as she took in the expansive void between them, a void shaped by misunderstanding and disgrace, a question lingered. Could she finally clasp the reins of her own identity, or would the price prove too high? Ava spent the days that followed in a haze, the echoes of the art show lingering in her mind like the remnants of a storm. The vibrant colors that adorned Lily's canvases clashed sharply against the monochrome landscape of her own life. Each morning as she donned her waitress apron, the weight of expectation loomed heavier, a relentless reminder of an unresolved past. Her shifts were saturated with daydreams of liberation, an insatiable desire to redefine what success meant in her life, to reclaim the narrative that had long spiraled out of her control. Every interaction at the diner mirrored her fragmented spirit, smiles stretched thin as customers droned on about their luxurious lives, consumed by trivial struggles that seemed so far removed from her own. Her hands moved with practiced dexterity, pouring coffee and plating meals, yet her mind was elsewhere, wrestling with the urgency to redirect her and Lily's future. One evening, she stumbled upon a community arts meeting in a quaint downtown cafe. The cafe's walls were adorned with local artwork, and the air hummed with a passion for creativity that felt intoxicating. She felt drawn to the gathered group, a motley assembly of aspiring artists, musicians, and writers who dared to dream beyond the constraints of their realities. A flicker of hope ignited within her the chance to find her own voice amidst the cacophony of judgment. "What brings you here?" a woman asked as Ava sipped her coffee, nerves dancing in her stomach. "I am searching for something," she hesitated, words tumbling forward, "something more meaningful for my daughter and me." The admission hung between them, a tentative bridge opening into a realm of possibilities. The woman smiled, her eyes reflecting understanding. "As artists, we often wrestle with the weight of our own expectations. You're not alone." That statement struck a chord deep within Ava. A dam of fleeting aspirations broke loose as she shared her journey, the stifling expectations of her parents, and her desire to validate Lily's creativity without the taint of wealth-driven aspirations. "Maybe you need to create your own canvas," the woman suggested. "Host a local exhibit for your daughter's art. With your story, it can inspire not just her, but others too." The thought sent excitement spiraling in her chest. An exhibit for Lily? It could be more than a presentation of raw talent, it could transform into a testament of their resilience and redefine their narrative. But the internal conflict swirled. Would she be risking Lily's future or embracing their authentic selves? As the meeting wound down, the camaraderie fueled Ava's resolve. She was ignited by the prospect of reinvention and community, craving the kind of support that came from those who understood the essence of creation not as a commodity, but as an expression of identity. She felt the contours of hope shaping around her like an intricate sculpture rising from shapeless clay. The next few days were a flurry of plans and ideas. With Lily by her side, they brainstormed potential themes for the exhibit, discussing what it meant to create from raw emotion rather than expectation. The thrill of possibility electrified their evenings as they painted together, a blending of dreams materializing on canvas. Ava noticed how Lily's confidence blossomed under her warmth and encouragement. Each brushstroke sang of liberation. As the exhibit date approached, Ava felt the simmering anxiety creeping back, in the reality of facing her parents and their entrenched ideals loomed ahead, bringing her down to earth as she recalled their disdain from the art show. Would they show up again, this time scrutinizing more than just the art? The suspense churned within her like thick, dark ink. Confrontation was inevitable. The night before the exhibit, while Lily slept, Ava stood before the canvas they had worked on together, vibrant colors swirling across the surface. This was their truth distilled. It became a reflection of her devotion to breaking free from shackles of expectation. Yet the primal fear of her parents' rejection pulsed within her. Would they embrace this new path, or shun it as they had done before? Stepping back, she exhaled slowly, preparing herself for the looming confrontation of ideals, a battle for their identity yet to be fought. In that moment, the reality settled in. Maybe this exhibit wasn't just about showcasing Lily's art. It was about embracing their own narratives, fighting with every fiber of her being to create a legacy beyond wealth. Tomorrow, she would step into the light, armed not just with paint but with an unwavering determination for her daughter's future. And as she walked away, she pondered what doorway this exhibit might truly unlock, what revelations awaited on the other side of that threshold, and who would truly emerge changed amid it all. The exhibit dawned bright and beautiful, the kind of day that would normally pull Ava from her hesitant shell and propel her outward. Instead, she felt anchored by a multitude of anxieties channeling through her veins. With every step toward the local gallery, the pulse of hope was tinged with dread. If this was to be a celebration of Lily's art, why did it feel more like an impending interrogation by the very forces she had spent her adult life trying to evade? As she and Lily entered the gallery, the atmosphere was a fragrant blend of fresh paint and varnish, alive with chatter and excitement. Vibrant people milled about, admiring the artworks, their eyes radiating appreciation. But Ava's gaze was fixed on the entrance, watching for her parents who, despite their disdain for the art world, would likely make an appearance out of obligation. Would they appreciate Lily's talent or dismiss it as another one of her daughter's whims? With every stranger that approached to discuss the pieces on display, Ava's heart raced. Every compliment directed at Lily's work felt like a carefully balanced act of juggling delight and fear. Each praise was marred by the worry of an impending confrontation with her parents, who represented everything she resented yet still craved approval from. In the midst of the crowd, Lily's artwork emanated life. It was her spirit captured in colors, each piece speaking directly to the struggles and triumphs they faced together. Ava marveled at how effortlessly Lily had poured herself onto the canvas, a stark contrast to the stifling expectations she herself had battled for so long. As conversations swirled around them, Ava sensed a storm brewing inside her, a tempest of conflicting emotions compelling her to confront her parents. These thoughts were stirred further when she caught sight of them approaching, her mother's pristine cardigan a glaring white against the thrumming vibrancy of the exhibit. "What a quaint little setup," her mother remarked, not bothering to disguise the edge of mockery underlying her tone. Ava's breath hitched. "Mom, do you think a couple of splashes of paint make you an artist?" Her father interjected, his presence looming large like a thundercloud threatening to distort the joyful energy that hadn't yet faded from the room. A surge of protective instinct seized Ava. "It's not just about the paint. It's about what the art represents. It's about Lily." The immediate shift of energy was palpable, the art patrons growing silent as attention turned toward this burgeoning conflict. Here it was, the confrontation she had both dreaded and longed for. In that moment, her voice steadied, channeling the resilience she had discovered while nurturing Lily's creativity. "You don't understand. This isn't just an exhibit. This is our story and our strength. You can't reduce it to status or wealth." Her father scoffed, dismissing her words as if they held no weight. Yet Ava felt empowered not only to defend Lily but to defend herself. It was no longer about approval, it was about reclaiming her narrative. An unexpected wave of clarity washed over her, and in that moment, she recognized that the struggle wasn't just against her parents, it was against the expectations that had bound her for years. As the silence hung in the air, she took a step forward, positioning herself between her parents and her daughter. "If you can't support her, at least respect the fact that this means something to us. This is a representation of what freedom can look like." There it was, a realization that sprawled across the canvas of her heart. She could choose to embrace resilience, not for the sake of gaining approval but as an act of self-preservation. With empathy, she finally understood their limitations were not hers to bear. But just as the tension seemed to release, she saw the flicker of confusion in Lily's eyes, perhaps even disappointment, as if the dream she had crafted with so much care was now teetering on the knife's edge of familial expectation and authenticity. Ava shifted, caught in a fragile moment of emerging empowerment, yet painfully aware of the unresolved connection with her daughter. Would she bend under the pressure, or could they both emerge, unbroken, into their own promised future? And so, as the gallery buzzed back to life around her, Ava faced the unexpected agitation of navigating tumultuous familial ties, a battle where neither reconciliation nor rebellion seemed easy, but both were required for true freedom. The question pressed deep within her: would she find a way to redefine what it meant to be a mother and an artist, or would this moment fracture the beauty of what they had created together? Ava stood on that precipice between confrontation and clarity, caught in the web of her thoughts as familiar faces turned away, muttering nervously amongst themselves. The energy in the room shifted back, patrons cautiously resuming their previous conversations, oblivious to the internal chaos brewing within her. She felt the weight of the moment, almost as if the gallery itself was holding its breath along with her. Lily looked at her, eyes wide with unfiltered emotion bubbling just below the surface. Ava inhaled sharply, the air carrying paint fumes and whispers of judgment. She had defended not only her daughter's art but her own emerging identity, one that had for too long been stifled by the generational expectations of her family. But could that newfound bravery translate into something lasting? Instead of basking in the warmth of the art, she felt cold and anxious. A fleeting image flashed in her mind, Lily's first brushstroke on a blank canvas, daring and free. It was there that Ava had first seen the unfiltered joy that painting sparked in her daughter. That moment ignited a desire deep within her, a wish to help Lily navigate an art world full of critics, to guide her through the skepticism that had once ensnared Ava herself. As she turned back to Lily, she was met with uncertainty. Lily began, her voice barely above a whisper, I didn't want this to be our moment of conflict. I just wanted you to be proud. A wave of guilt lapped at Ava's resolve. I am proud, sweetheart. But pride means standing up for what matters, even when it's uncomfortable. This was a chance to solidify the bond between them, to create a new narrative. She needed to convey not just her awareness of familial constraints but her ability to dismantle them. Lily searched her mother's face for reassurance. Ava's heart pounded fiercely, her thoughts colliding between internal shields and protective instincts. What if, she started, her voice faltering. What if we left all of this behind us? Just you and me. Lily's eyes brightened momentarily, but then dimmed as apprehension crept back in. Mom, are you afraid? Or are you just frustrated? That question sat heavy in the air, forcing Ava to confront her own trepidation head-on. Not afraid of you or your art, but afraid of losing what little approval they still offer. But that's not what matters. In that instant, Ava recognized her journey was not merely about escaping her parents' shadows, it was about genuinely liberating herself and Lily from those confines. A knot in her stomach gradually began to untangle as clarity settled in. She recalled how, even at a young age, she always felt her choices needed validation first from her mother, then from society. Let's turn this into something empowering, she said, clenching Lily's hands tighter. Let us show them what true talent looks like. Art is meant to evoke emotion, and if they can't see it, that's on them, not us. Lily nodded, a flicker of determination lighting her features. I want to keep creating. But what if we fail? What if they still don't understand? Even in failure, there's strength. Art connects with many, and sometimes it takes resilience to find the right audience. The conviction in Ava's voice surprised her. It came from deep within, where her own art and narrative had long been suffocated but were now breaking through in shades of bravery. As they exchanged a glance, a new understanding ignited. This was the beginning of charting their course, a pathway lined not just with triumph, but also the acceptance of imperfections, embraced fully. Ava felt a surge of purpose. They would cultivate an environment steeped in authenticity, where creativity could thrive freely, yet, just as she thought they were aligning their intentions, a shadow crossed her mind, reminding her of the lingering storm clouds, the anticipation of impending judgment from her parents. Standing there in the gallery, the cacophony of voices around them faded, leaving only the two of them, united and yet suspended in uncertainty. Can we really do this, Mom? Lily asked softly. That same vulnerability creeping back into her tone. They stood on a fork in the road, both excited and terrified of what lay ahead. The tension brewed, pulling at the air between them, merging hope and trepidation in an intricate dance. The stakes were higher than ever, they could either shatter old patterns or plunge into chaos, and the decision lay firmly within them both. Would the connection they forged be strong enough to override the influence of her parents' expectations? Ava wondered, her heart racing. The next brushstroke would be crucial in setting the course for their future. Ava took a deep breath, steadying herself. The air felt thick with possibilities, each strained moment pressing against her chest like a weight. She barely registered the gallery around them, as if a spotlight had narrowed down just to their shared space, isolating them from the uncertainty they faced together. It wasn't simply about the upcoming judgment, it was about transforming fear into action. Let's start by making our own space, she said, her voice stronger now, infused with a newfound purpose. What if we organized our own exhibit? A showcase of your work, where we invite those who truly appreciate what art can be. Lily's brows furrowed in cautious optimism. You mean like a pop-up? Without their approval? Exactly. We'll create our narrative, our identities. No need for their validation when the art speaks for itself. Ava's heart thrummed to life at the thought, an electric energy coursing through her as she envisioned the concept unfolding. Could we really do that? Lily asked, edges of hope carefully braided into her uncertainty. Of course we can. We just need to plan it right. We'll call it Shades of Us, a space where you can present your journey as an artist, unfettered and authentic. The ideals scanned through her mind like a checklist: a venue, local supporters, advertisement through social media. The logistics felt daunting yet exhilarating. As they delved deeper into the conversation, Ava's self-doubt began to dissipate. The remnants of fear gradually shuffled to the periphery. Instead of hiding behind a narrative curated by others, she was stepping into a role that demanded courage. She pushed through into her newly minted role as a guide and empowered presence beside her daughter, and it filled her with an intimacy that felt exhilarating. But what if they see it? What if Grandma and Grandpa find out? Lily's concern was palpable, a sudden barrier to their blossoming excitement. We can't let them dictate our paths anymore. We'll have to brace ourselves for their reactions, but it's our story to tell. Their opinions may sting, but we can rise above them together. Ava felt her heart drum like a war beat, impressing the urgency within their newfound mission. This wasn't just about art, it represented the onset of rebellion against constraints that had shaped their lives for too long. Their narrative would redefine success, subsuming every critique into a powerful reclamation of their identity. Let us start sketching ideas, Ava urged, pulling out her notebook from her bag, worn yet familiar like nostalgia itself. What colors do you want to represent you? What themes resonate? As Lily slipped into the realm of creativity, Ava observed her daughter poring over the blank page, capturing the essence of what could be. There was a palpable shift, and an excitement ignited within her as she watched Lily embrace the prospect of this venture. But even amidst inspiration, a flicker of hesitation curled at the edges of Ava's mind. While they were crafting their vision, her parents loomed larger and larger, memories of past confrontations flickering like a slideshow behind her eyes. The fear of their disapproval threatened to creep into the corners of her newfound clarity. Lily's delicate voice broke through her hesitation. "Mom, are you okay? You seem... I don't know, somewhere else." Caught between the weight of ambition and the gravity of expectation, Ava forced a smile. "I'm here, just thinking about the next steps." But deep down, she was aware of something more lurking in the shadows, the dawning realization that not everyone would embrace their artistic freedom. With each passing moment, her determination solidified. No longer would she cling to the fear of her parents' approval. It was time to disrupt the cycle, to forge a path that was exclusively their own. As they began to brainstorm more fully, a new kind of tension lingered in the room. This was no longer just about art, but about rewriting the conversations of their lives. How far would they go to pursue their vision? And would they be ready when the inevitable confrontation with her parents finally surfaced? The answers loomed just out of reach, teetering slowly into view like a brush poised over an empty canvas, waiting for the stroke that could transform everything. The days that followed felt charged with purpose, each moment imbued with an energy that Ava had rarely experienced. As she and Lily mapped out their exhibit, Shades of Us, a sense of urgency propelled their actions. They spent hours brainstorming ideas, surrounded by colorful sketches and hastily written notes that lined the walls of Ava's living space. The shadows of doubt were gradually replaced by blueprints of hope and self-expression. Despite the exhilarating momentum, remnants of anxiety clung to Ava, refusing to let go completely. The stakes felt monumental. Organizing the exhibit meant not only revealing Lily's growth as an artist but also confronting Ava's own past. She had spent years tiptoeing around her parents' expectations, learning to suppress her desires in favor of maintaining familial harmony. Each stroke of a pencil on paper felt like an assertion of defiance. "Mom, what if we used art that resonates with our experiences? We can tell our story through color and form. What do you think?" Lily's voice, brimming with excitement, broke through Ava's spiraling thoughts. With a nod, Ava responded, "That's a beautiful idea, Lily. Let us brainstorm what colors define our journey." As the conversation turned toward color palettes and themes, Ava felt her pulse quicken. For the first time, she wasn't just facilitating Lily's vision, she was participating in a reclamation that defined both their lives. They settled on a range of vibrant colors: bold yellows to signify hope, deep blues for introspection, and fiery reds for passion and rebellion. Ava's heart swelled with pride as Lily shared her thoughts, envisioning how each piece could weave together an unfiltered narrative. However, lingering doubts began to rise again as Ava excused herself to the bathroom for a quiet moment. She splashed cold water on her face, hoping to sober her swirling thoughts. Could they genuinely escape the scrutiny of her family? The image of her parents loomed large in her mind, judgments wrapped in well-intentioned advice, a cage she had often allowed to constrict her. The real dilemma wasn't just managing her parents' expectations, it was confronting the version of herself that had compromised too often. A flicker of resolve ignited as she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. This was her time to assert her voice, to show Lily, her daughter, her equal, that they would no longer be stifled by the weight of others' opinions. Returning to the living room, Ava steadied herself. Let's add a section that reflects our journey through their expectations. A thematic piece on breaking free. She noticed Lily's eyes widen with understanding, revealing a shared struggle. Do you really think we can show that? Lily asked, her excitement overshadowed by a hint of reservation. Absolutely. Our experience can be a canvas ready to be painted over, Ava encouraged, realizing the significance of teaching Lily not just to confront norms but to rewrite them entirely. However, a shadow loomed on the horizon. The realization that conflict with her parents was imminent seeped back into Ava's consciousness. How would they react when faced with the embodiment of Ava's rebellion, molded from the very daughter they believed they knew? They spent the next few days gathering supplies, canvases, paints, and brushes. Each item felt like an anchor, pulling them deeper into their mission. Yet, in moments of stillness, Ava would catch herself imagining her parents' responses, the disappointment etched across their faces. She fought to maintain focus, reminding herself of their newfound vision. With the exhibit date creeping closer, a significant decision awaited them. How would they handle the inevitable confrontation? As the air thickened with anticipation, Ava's determination surged. Perhaps the most daunting challenge wasn't the art itself, but the audacity to live fully in their truth. How ready are we to face them? Ava's voice broke through the air, and Lily's expression shifted, reflecting the enormity of what lay ahead. Together, right? Lily said, and in her eyes, Ava saw the strength that was becoming a foundation for both of them. Together, they would face this, but would the strength of their bond withstand the storm brewing on the horizon? The morning of the exhibit dawned with a nervous vibrancy, the sun pushing through the curtains and illuminating the clutter of their shared space. Ava moved through the kitchen with mechanical precision, pouring coffee while her thoughts raced ahead. This day represented a culmination of not just artistic expression but personal liberation. As she took a moment to breathe, every sip coaxed forth a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Lily was already awake, setting the final touches on the pieces they had worked on together. Ava watched her daughter as she expertly arranged canvases of yellows, blues, and reds, transformed into visual poetry. Lily had grown into a confident artist, but Ava saw glimpses of her own child grappling with the weight of legacy. There was pressure heavy in the air, not just from their parents but from their own expectations of success. Do you think they'll understand? Lily broke the silence, doodling nervously on one unfinished canvas. The question hung between them like a tailored suit before a job interview. It demanded a suitable response. Could Ava articulate the complexity of confronting their families while still keeping Lily's spirit intact? They might surprise us, or Ava hesitated, measuring her words carefully. They might not get it at all. But that's why we're doing this, right? Lily's blue eyes sparkled with an unyielding fire. To show them who we really are. Yes, Ava affirmed, but a part of her wondered if it was that simple. The fundamental reality was loud and clear: they had spent years conforming to someone else's idea of who they should be, and this exhibit was their first true forging of identity. They departed for the gallery, hands gripping the steering wheel and paintbrushes alike. The venue loomed ahead, a blank canvas set to host their expressions. As they set up, a small twinge of nostalgia washed over Ava. Fragments of her past echoed in the polished floors and stark walls. It felt like stepping back into an old narrative she longed to rewrite. Once the exhibit was arranged, Ava stepped back, admiring their work. Each piece pulsated with raw emotion, art that could not be ignored. Yet the looming fear of confrontation inevitably crept into her mind. The weight of parental judgment felt unbearable. "What's on your mind?" Lily asked, catching the glimmer of uncertainty crossing Ava's face. "I'm just thinking." Ava began, faltering. "About that moment when they arrive. What if they laugh at us? What if they reject it?" Lily stepped closer, her small hand placed firmly against Ava's forearm, unwavering. "We're not doing this for them. Remember that. We're doing this for us." The chill of that reminder tightened Ava's resolve. Allowing her parents to disapprove was one thing, continuing to let it hurt her was another. The evolution she had experienced bore a responsibility to protect not just herself but the future she envisioned for Lily, a life unencumbered by other people's views. As the gallery doors swung open and guests began to filter in, Ava could hear the gentle hum of voices and laughter, the excitement, a living, breathing entity in the room. Despite the momentous weight of parental intrusion that promised to come, she felt a flicker of warmth within her, the realization that they were not alone. They were about to share their truth. However, mixed with anticipation was a familiar tingle of dread. As the clock ticked closer to her parents' expected arrival, a seismic shift rippled through her. Would the art resonate with them, or would it signal the end of the fragile truce they had maintained? A deep breath steadied her as she looked at Lily. "Ready?" Lily nodded, her eyes whispering bravery. "Together." But for Ava, the door was still open for unsettling revelations. The reality of their creations, layered with personal narratives, stood to challenge everything her parents had ever known about her and Lily. As other guests approached to admire their work, Ava couldn't help but wonder what might happen when her parents finally stepped into the gallery, and whether their world would tilt irreversibly. What awaited them in the eye of the storm? Ava could feel the shift in the atmosphere as more guests filled the gallery. The cacophony of laughter and chatter became a surreal backdrop to her spiraling thoughts. Each laugh pierced through her like an unsettling reminder of her parents' inevitable presence. She had spent years molding her essence to fit within the rigid expectations set for her, caught in a web of familial duty and disappointment. Yet, here she stood, on the brink of declaring her truths and challenging the constraints of her upbringing. Lily was speaking with a group of admirers, her enthusiasm infectious. Ava admired her daughter's ease, feeling an ache of pride intermingled with anxiety. It was a stark contrast to her own experience, where any form of expression had been tightly controlled. Each stroke of the brush in their shared art felt like a rebellion, a vibrant plea to be heard and understood. Would her parents ever acknowledge the depth of her effort? Would they grasp how her art mirrored not just her journey but Lily's as well? She turned her back to the crowd, shaking off the impending darkness. The exhibit stood as a testament to their collaborative spirit, a sanctuary for shared struggles and triumphs. Scenes of conflicted emotions, self-doubt, and resilience cascaded across the walls, all harmonizing in a riot of color. But could bravery ever be enough to confront the disapproving gaze of those who could never understand? The gallery door swung open, the jangle of the bell resonating through her. Ava's heart raced. She stole a glance, and there they were, her parents. The very people she had longed to impress but who had consistently overlooked the essence of who she was. As they stepped into her world, her pulse quickened. She was no longer the daughter who fought for acknowledgement. Today, she would stand as a creator daring to express her identity. "Where do we start?" Lily's voice broke through her reverie, grounding her. Ava turned slowly, measuring her response against the tumultuous blend of emotions swirling within her like storm clouds. "Let's explain the first piece," she pointed to an abstract painting celebrating resilience. "It's about overcoming barriers you can't always see." With every word, she felt fresh determination seep into her bones. This wasn't just an exhibit, it was a battleground of sorts. Ava took her daughter's hand, sharing the moment like a ritual. This journey was theirs alone, not shaped by another's expectations. As they approached the painting, her parents took their time scrutinizing it, their expressions inscrutable. The tension in Ava's chest tightened, a familiar dread clawing at her throat. They were assessing her worthiness based on how well she fit within their rigid framework again. Would they scoff, dismiss, or would their skepticism soften into understanding? Very expressive, her mother finally said, the words heavy with layered undertones that echoed history, longing and disappointment cloaked in feigned interest. Lily, oblivious to the undercurrents, beamed brightly. It represents our journey together through challenge and change. We wanted to depict what it feels like to break free. Ava could see the flicker of surprise in her mother's eyes and found herself gripping Lily's hand tighter. Their boldness catalyzed something within her. If this was the moment to choose authenticity over acceptance, she needed to fully commit to it. As they continued into the exhibition, the anticipation hung thick in the air. The balance between her desire for acknowledgement from her parents and the need to liberate herself from their perceptions felt precarious. Rumblings of conversations broke the delicate stillness, guests expressing their interpretations of the art, sharing emotional ties that resonated deeply with what Ava and Lily had created. Behind her, she felt the presence of her parents' shifting tension, the conversations possibly stirring a curiosity that had lain dormant for years. Perhaps her art, forged in defiant authenticity, was seeping into their consciousness, urging them to confront what they avoided, but just as the thrill of possibility unfolded, her father's voice cut through the murmur, solidifying the divide. I believe the message here is lost. If you only knew how the world really works. Her heart clenched at his dismissal, but now there was a steeling resolve. Facing the momentary dissonance, Ava knew she had a choice to make. She could allow their opinions to dim her flame or amplify it. This was the crux of all her growth. No longer would she yield to the burden of pleasing others. Actually, Dad, she interjected, unconsciously stepping into the role of defender of her art. I think you might be surprised at how much these stories reflect the real world. Sometimes, it's uncomfortable, but it's undeniably real. Lily's eager gaze filled with pride bolstered Ava's resolve. What would her parents decide to make of this refusal to back down? The conflict was brewing, sharper than it had ever been before. The door to their history lay open, and the tension between acceptance and disapproval was palpable. But resolve clashed with fear, brewing something unpredictable. Would this moment shatter the inherited relationship between them or foster a new connection through the power of their shared truths? As the crowd ebbed and flowed, the air thickened with the impending confrontation, and Ava realized, she was prepared to stake her claim, come what may. The question loomed: how would her parents react now that the truth was painting itself boldly before them? Ava's hands trembled as she faced her father. The moment felt surreal, as if the gallery had transformed into a volatile arena where her boldness pitted against her parents' traditional values. For so long, she had followed their unspoken rules, relegating herself to the sidelines in her own life. But tonight was different. Her art had become her shield, a vibrant declaration of everything her heart had withheld. See beyond the surface, Dad, she implored, feeling the weight of her words. Art speaks truths that often get lost in our everyday lives, the truths we shy away from. Her father's brow creased in confusion, while her mother's expression hardened, as if she were recoiling from an attack. The equilibrium of their relationship, carefully maintained through mutual avoidance, was tipping precariously. Ava felt the bolt of fear and determination surge within her. Would this be the moment she would reclaim her narrative? Lily, emulating a warrior's spirit, stood by her side. We made this for us, for the world, to show that what we experience matters. It's real, and artists have a duty to express that. The vigor in her daughter's voice filled Ava with fresh strength. She turned to look at Lily, seeing her youthful optimism a representation of everything she wished she could have become sooner. Ava's thoughts swirled with memories of her past, the silent dismissals, the conversations that felt like barbed wire, always leaving her wrestling with the impossible task of meeting her parents' expectations. This exchange with her father felt like a declaration: a release from those chains. Expressing yourself isn't an act of defiance, her mother finally spoke, her tone teetering between frustration and realization, traditional ideals wrestling with the new paradigm unfolding before them. It's important to understand the consequences of going against what is expected. I'm tired of consequences that silence my voice, Ava replied, the words spilling out faster than she could contain them. I've spent enough years trying to earn your approval. Look at this gallery, she gestured, her arms sweeping over the colorful canvases. This isn't about you or what you wanted for me. It's about what I want to say to express the pain and joy we navigate every day. Acknowledging your fears isn't weakness, it's strength. The weight of her declaration hung between them like a thick fog. Ava felt both exhilaration and terror in standing up for her truth, challenging her parents to stretch their understanding. For the first time, she was unapologetically herself, vulnerable yet empowered. She caught her father's gaze, a mixture of anger and concern brewing beneath the surface. No one cares about your pain, Ava, he said quietly, yet the words stung deeply. The world rewards discipline, not uncertainty. Then why does discipline feel so suffocating? Ava shot back. Why can't I embrace my imperfections? Realness offers growth, not stagnation. The crowded gallery, with its rhythm of whispered discussions, faded into silence in that moment. Ava's heart raced, realizing she had ventured into deeply personal territory, igniting an emotional rebellion that could fracture their connection forever. Yet, it was a risk she was willing to take. Across the room, guests exchanged glances, sensing the charged atmosphere. The art they celebrated earlier now took on a deeper significance, like vibrant threads weaving through a complex fabric of familial bonds and personal freedom. Ava, this isn't the world you know, her father countered, a touch of desperation creeping into his voice. Then let me show you a different one, she retorted, feeling the fiery resolve of her mission surge within her. Let me introduce you to who I am, not who you want me to be. A brief silence enveloped them, palpable with both defiance and vulnerability. Ava realized the journey they had embarked upon clashed with everything they thought they understood about art, family, and identity. Her willingness to stand firm unveiled layers of conflict she had never anticipated, opening up the possibility of deeper connections or an even greater rift. As her parents processed her revelations, she felt a flicker of hope igniting, yet the tension remained taut, unresolved. How deeply were they willing to engage? Would they push back against their preconceived notions, or would they retreat, clinging to the certainty of the past? The moment, charged with potential, left Ava vulnerable yet invigorated. She stood in that space, poised at the edge of transformation, uncertain of what would follow but resolute in her desire to be seen and understood. What would her parents choose in the wake of her confrontation? And could she endure the fallout, whatever form it might take? The future of their family hung in the balance, fraught with the possibility of either painful rejection or remarkable redemption. Ava stood at the threshold of her newly defined identity, heart racing as the echoes of her parents' last words lingered heavy in the air. Each stroke of color on the canvases behind her screamed of struggle and strength, intertwined with the delicate chords of her and Lily's journey, a testament to their resilience. The air buzzed with palpable energy, igniting a deep-seated resolve within her. She had defied the expectation that had once suffocated her, and this moment was no longer about seeking validation, it was about establishing intrinsic value in her art, her story, and most importantly, her relationship with Lily. Looking at her daughter, Ava felt a swell of pride. Lily's unwavering commitment to their shared passion breathed life into the gallery, shifting her focus away from her parents' disapproval. They had come together to create something powerful, far beyond aesthetics. They had reclaimed a narrative drenched in authenticity. Ava realized this was not merely an exhibit but an avenue to empower not just themselves but others seeking to break free from the constraints of their upbringing. Gathering her courage, Ava stepped closer to her parents. Their defensive postures, folded arms and tight lips spoke volumes. Yet there was strength in her voice as she asserted, "This art is our bridge, not a barrier. It extends beyond wealth and expectation, it embodies our truth." Her words blended into the vibrant atmosphere around them, wrapping around the paintings as if they too understood her intent. Why should we compromise our perspectives? Ava implored. Realness in art often meets discomfort. Just because our views diverge doesn't negate the value of what I'm expressing. Her voice, steady and unwavering, challenged the foundations of their relationships. She could feel the heat rising in the room not just from her confrontation, but from the audience that surrounded them, gauging every reaction and nuance within this familial standoff. In the face storm of emotions, Ava noticed a flicker of contemplation in her father's eyes. The revelation sat heavily. Perhaps he understood, at least in part, the struggle to balance familial expectations with self-identity. For the first time, the tension melted slightly, creating room for dialogue rather than judgment. "But is this really the life you want?" he asked, his voice taut with apprehension. "Art can be a frivolous pursuit. Art can also be profound," Ava countered, her passion igniting with fervor. "It is what Lily and I have chosen, not as an escape from our lives but as a celebration of them. It matters to us." The room fell silent, and the owners of the art began to see Ava not just as the daughter seeking approval but as a woman exploring her voice. In that moment, a deep understanding began to weave into the gaps between them, a bridge stretching beyond years of unvoiced conflicts. Lily stepped forward, grounding the moment with her innocence wrapped in authenticity. "Grandpa, Grandma, if you can't see what this means to us, then I'm afraid we might not be as close as we thought," she said. "But I want to be close." Her words, despite their heavy implications, were filled with a youthful optimism that dared to challenge the status quo. The trembling uncertainty in the air thickened, yet Ava felt renewed strength surge through her. She began to recognize the incredible journey they were navigating. This dialogue had the potential not only to redefine their family but also to redefine her. She had liberated herself from the chains of self-doubt. Now, it was about extending that same grace to her parents. "We're asking you to embrace our truth, to acknowledge that our paths do not need to mirror yours," Ava added, her voice bolstered by both conviction and vulnerability. Then came the unthinkable, a moment that felt surreal yet beautifully transformative. With a slow nod, Ava's mother drew a breath and spoke softly. "Art, I suppose, does have a way of breathing life into experiences, doesn't it?" The admission hung in the air, a pivotal shift toward acceptance. It was recognition, a step toward healing. Ava felt as if she stood on the precipice of a new resolution. Each persona, the aspiring artist, the devoted daughter, the nurturing mother, began to align. The journey ahead held uncertainty, yet it was also ripe with potential. Their exhibit had paved a pathway to newfound appreciation, entwined with mutual respect. The chains of expectation melted away, replaced by a web of understanding that could carry them into the future. As the evening unfolded and guests continued to admire Lily's work, Ava realized this was more than just a pivotal moment for her family. It was a launchpad toward a profound transformation. With her parents embracing this new outlook, the chasm of estrangement had begun to close one brushstroke at a time. Ava smiled, knowing that together they had created a story laced with colors that would continue to evolve, with art as their guide. She had achieved the fulfillment of defining her identity beyond her family's influences, a recognition that success emerged not just from wealth or acceptance but also from the heart bound by love and understanding, a legacy she hoped would flourish in Lily too. Now was the time to celebrate. This was the moment where dreams became existent, and Ava took a deep breath, prepared to leap into this vibrant unknown, armed with a fertile confidence and the promise that they would redefine success on their own terms. And as the exhibit continued buzzing around her, Ava felt an urge surge within her, a call for others to join in on the journey of art, healing, and love. So listen closely, you need to subscribe now to the channel to follow more transformative stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these stories reach those who need them. Comment below your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.